40 years experience as a head teacher in Sussex, and now the governor for Willingdon Community School. So firstly, we're going to talk to Mary. Mary, can you tell us a bit about the University of Winchester?
Yes, it started off when I first started about some 15 years ago. We were a college, and we attained our degree awarding powers in 2008. And at that time, we had about 400 academic and professional service staff.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's grown seamlessly to 700 staff with its equal challenges.
I'll bet.
And yeah, and also we're continually adding our degree base, which sometimes is planned, sometimes has to change quite quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and so my role has to change quite quickly as well.
Yeah, I'll bet. How do you manage that?
Mostly on the hoof and with good communication. For example, the challenges we face is that we now do criminology, and that has a forensics lab.
Oh, right.
And we also have a street arts degree, which obviously includes fire juggling,
Yeah.
which is also a challenge. So it has to be the awareness of the staff that are managing that. We have to embed the health and safety into their programs.
Absolutely. So your health and safety needs, the training needs are changing quite regularly.
Yes,
Yeah.
and yeah, with the expertise of the degrees that we're offering to students.
Oh, good stuff. So those are the main challenges you'd say. What would you say the main challenges are to the educational sector as a whole when it comes to health and safety training?
It's the diversity, and sometimes it's keeping track of where students and staff are and what they're expected to achieve. And also,
Right.
As you mentioned in your introduction, it is the long hours we work, and the academics will focus on their academic side and not sort of focus on the health and safety side until the last minute or as a reactive measure, which is understandable because they're here to, for academia and not health and safety sometimes.
So do you face a reluctance, would you say, from your staff to get involved in training?
Yes, but it's usually from pressure, and the courses that WorkRite offer, it allows them to actually not have to take time out of their working day. They can sit at their work, in their office or wherever they are, and actually do the courses. And it does raise awareness, because if you're having a repeat program of, say, for fire safety on an annual basis, you can see that reports of unsafe conditions of stuff might be stacked in a fire exit.
Mm-hmm.
The reporting to me, the level rises just after they've undertaken their training. So it does work.
Oh, great stuff. Well. What were you doing, if you don't mind me asking, before you had WorkRite in place? What was the kind of the situation with training? How did it work?
It was paper-based,
mm-hmm.
And the training was either one-to-one or as a group, and it was very ad hoc. So we would advertise a list of courses at the beginning of the year in our staff development handbook, and I would put dates of when these courses would take, and I can remember, having a take-up of 12, but when I actually came to delivery, nobody turned up.
Oh, no.
So
you were on your own.
Shall I just leave it 10 minutes longer? And also the recording of training was paper-based, so that if you had to investigate anything, it was long and arduous, and it wasn't all recorded in one place. So it was very, very time-consuming, not very accurate, really.
Okay. So can you talk us through the courses that you've got currently that you're using from WorkRite?
Yeah, we've got AssessRite, Asbestos Awareness, FireRite, HandleRite, and the Accident Management System. And the accident management system, as the attachment to AssessRite, works very well.
Oh, good stuff. How have you found that if we talk about AssessRite first off, how have you found that that's kind of changed because that's our DSE training and assessment course. How have you found that that's kind of changed that process specifically?
It has significantly shown us that we're expecting very tall people to sit on very small chairs.
Oh, really?
And we have been probably not providing the right chairs for quite a while, but it is also helping. It is reducing the sickness absence where people have a
Really?
pre-existing, yeah, where people have a pre-existing back injury, and they would have time off sick. Then by actually taking the time to show that you care and providing the right equipment for them, it has reduced that type of sickness absence.
That's brilliant, and that's something I guess that using the system you've been able to track. So kind of a direct correlation between
Yes,
having it and reducing the number of
yeah,
days off
because
sick.
everything that we supply is always recorded, and as well as the initial assessment. And then, so that if we need to make adjustments, we can see what we've supplied or tried before,
Yeah.
or if their condition changes at all, then it's recorded, and so that we know that we've got to go in and just do a reassessment. So it is good, very good.
Oh, good stuff. And with regards to WorkRite, with your fire training, how do you use that? Is that a blended approach, or how do you do your fire training?
The fire training is a blended approach. When we get the starters list, they get their email training notification. But it also, the frontline responders and fire wardens, then we have the classroom situation for that as well.
Yeah.
So it works very well, and
going for the blended approach.
can use that as well. Yeah.
And the students use it too. Was that?
Yeah, some the interns, especially, because obviously they then become employees, and also I do use it for contractors as well on their induction.
Oh, great! So you use it in quite a flexible way across the board.
Yes, yes. So I would just log on, and at the induction, I would just go through it with them as well. So that's good.
And with regards to asbestos, if we can talk about that course, what had prompted that need specifically for the asbestos awareness course?
The asbestos awareness course was that we felt that we may have exposed some of our employees to asbestos, and when we looked at their training, there'd been no training provision for it, because there had been training provision, but because of change of staff and change of management, it had lapsed. And so that's what prompted that, so that we had to actually do an investigation into exposure, and so that was part of our remedial measure.
So you had like a gap analysis and realised that you should provide some training for it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. So can I just ask, since you've had the WorkRite system, how would you say it's changed your training, how you're carrying that out? You've already talked about kind of more continuity, but with your job role specifically.
I can concentrate on more specialist areas. It's less time consuming, both for the delivery, but also with investigating as well. I can see why something might have happened. An example of that was that recently we had a small fire in one of our halls of residence, and one of the security staff that attended suffered smoke inhalation.
Right.
And was off work for quite a while. But when I looked, he hadn't actually completed his training on joining some 2 months prior to that. So that showed, then I could see why he'd acted as he did, but also that we need to put in place more stringent checks that first-line responders are actually completing their courses in a timely manner.
Absolutely. So you're able to report on the courses and the training and see who's done what courses and when.
Yeah, but also, especially with your reporting system for WorkRite as well, that does help embed the health and safety sort of ethos within the university, because I can print off performance reports and present them to each faculty and department health and safety committee meeting. So it becomes a bit of a competition.
That's a good way of doing it.
I show it and I thought, oh, you're not performing very well, and then by the next meeting you can see that they're creeping up again. So
they're picking up their game.
Yeah. University staff tend to be very competitive, I've found. So,
good. Use that.
Well.
If it's making the organisation as a whole more compliant and getting them to complete the training, why not?
Yeah.
So if you were to kind of sum up your experience using with WorkRite, or for the educational sector, if you could just kind of sum up why it's useful and what you think of it.
It's useful for compliance, and as I said, for investigating, but also it's very user-friendly, because of the time that people have available for training, it gets the message across in a very concise and quick way. And also it's flexible because you can also tailor it if you wanted to for anything that specifically you wanted to target within the subject area. So, and there's not very many courses out there that will currently do that.
Oh, great stuff. Brilliant. Thanks so much for chatting, Mary. Really appreciate it.
That's all right, Ellie.
Brilliant.
All right,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye.
So our educational statement also goes on to talk about the AssessRite course that Mary spoke about. Also COSH and the science dangers involved. We talk about our quality and diversity course and the cultural sensitivity. I wanted to talk today with Clive about our conflict resolution course. We have got a quick poll that we're going to do. Just want to ask you to think about your own work environment, and on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most common, how often do you experience conflict at work? So we're just going to launch that and open the poll. What do you think? How often are you experiencing conflict? Helping teachers, lecturers and other staff understand how to deal with conflict puts them in a good position to de-escalate and retain control of tricky or potentially dangerous situations. So I think everyone's voted now. If we just have a look. Share those results. So there we go. Quite mixed response there. Clive, if you can just talk to us about some of the conflict that you as a headmaster over years have faced in the schools.
Okay, well, in the primary school, the most common form of conflict will obviously be amongst the children, ranging from "that's my chair, you're not my friend, you've taken my toy," to name-calling and various forms of bullying, including social exclusion.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the staff who have to pick up the pieces. Particularly for very young children, an issue may be done and dusted and they've moved on and left the teacher there still trying to sort of resolve something. I should say from the outset that schools in the main are pretty harmonious places, but they're large organisations involving a range of adults, including staff, governors, parents, outside agencies, the local authority, local community, visitors, so conflicts are bound to rise from time to time. In my experience, conflicts often arise because of a lack of clarity, maybe a misunderstanding of roles and responsibilities, or a lack of information. Some immediate examples that spring to mind was I once joined a school where the chair of governors had either been chair of governors or vice chair of governors for 24 years, and he was under the impression he ran the school, which was not my understanding at all. So there was a lot of conflict to deal with immediately, and that was about clarifying roles and responsibilities. In very extreme examples, again, I inherited a school where it was an all-through primary and the infants and the juniors hardly ever met. The teachers of those departments, they each felt that they were the driving force that was leading to the good achievements of the school, and totally had no understanding of what the other half did. There was also within the same school a split between the teaching staff and support staff, even to the extent that the teachers had higher shelves for their cups in the cupboards and the support staff had the shelf underneath.
Oh no, what a hierarchy.
What a hierarchy. It was unbelievable. The support staff didn't have pigeonholes. Only the teachers received direct communication.
Sounds like there was bullying of the poor support staff.
It wasn't actually bullying, it was just a total lack of understanding of how important communication was.
I see.
Yeah, there were all kinds of problems that arose from that situation. Again, within school situation, there may be conflict involving parents, and that often stems from them joining in with their children's disputes and
Picking
escalating
sides.
matters. Yeah, going and dealing with something on behalf of their child and actually making the problem worse.
I see.
Teachers may have issues with other teachers, and that again perhaps involves the environment that we now work in, where everybody has to produce the goods, and one teacher may be justifying their perceived poor performance by blaming it on another teacher because of the way the children came up to them.
Perception's important.
Perception is incredibly important. It may be issues between teachers and cleaning staff or the caretaker, where maybe exits are blocked, where the teachers put up a display not thinking about keeping fire exits clear. It may be that they're untidy and they don't leave the classroom in a fit state that the cleaners can actually clean. So there are all kinds of ways that the conflicts will arise.
Good stuff. It's quite interesting. As Clive was talking there, I was just flicking through our conflict resolution course. It was Stress Awareness Day yesterday, so we're going to have a bit of a chat about stress in the educational sector. We've got another poll here. According to a recent NASUWT report, that's the Teachers Union, in March this year, what percentage of staff have reported workplace stress? Would you say 50%, 71%, or 83%? If you guys can just put what you reckon, that'd be great. Everyone gone? Great. There we go. And I can see here that the majority of you went for 71%. It's actually 83% reported workplace stress, with 2/3 of respondents of a survey of 3,500 members of the union revealing that they had considered quitting the profession in the past year. Clive, can you just chat a bit about your experience as head of quite a large primary school and the stress levels faced? What is it that teachers are getting stressed about, and how do you cope?
Well, why do you think I've retired? Teachers are probably the hardest working professionals I know, so therefore often the stress is self-induced. When we think about stress, we immediately think of Ofsted and the often unrealistic expectations that they have and demands made by our political masters. That's very real. Schools are now objective and target-driven. Schools are told how high to jump, and then they jump that little bit higher, driven by their own aspirations. Raise Online analyses every aspect of a school's performance. So when a school sweats blood to improve in 10 areas, they're still asked, why is this one group of two children underachieving? There's often very little recognition for all the good that a school does, and a lot of concentration on what's perceived to be areas where the school can still
Things
improve.
to work on. Yeah.
Things to work on. And schools are their own worst enemies, because schools will always be seeking to improve. And there has to be a barrier. There has to be some kind of line that's very hard to cross. One of the things in recent years has been a drive to bridge the gap between different pupils, so that no pupil is underachieving. When most schools found that really, really hard, the government then raised the bar to expect schools to not just bridge the gap, but now close it. And it's those kind of demands that makes the school environment incredibly stressful. Everybody's been through the school system, so everybody knows how to teach. So teachers will get demands from parents. There will be the management
I
structure
mean,
within the
everyone's got an
school.
opinion on how it
Everyone's
should be
got an
run.
opinion. The school management and the governors will be wanting to get the highest possible outcomes for the children. There might be a local authority, or if the school's an academy, there will be some kind of structure on top of that that will be imposing their expectations. And then you've got the government and Ofsted and outside bodies like that. So yes, it's incredibly stressful.
And does it lead to teachers going off with stress?
It can lead to a lot of absence. So yes, if you look at absence statistics, a lot of teachers suffer from stress. I know of lots of head teachers who have left the profession earlier than they needed to just because they said enough's enough. So yes, that is definitely the case.
Well, as a head teacher, sorry, what would have been your advice to teachers as an employer, as a manager of a school? How would you advise your teaching staff to manage stress? Did you guys have a strategy in place?
There were various things. I mean, a bit like Mary had said earlier, things probably tend to be on an ad hoc basis. So there were some structured things coming in, but a lot of it would be knowing if you needed to refer somebody to counselling, or whether there was a structure within the school that you could actually support somebody with, whether it was just to tell them to go and plant a tree and watch it grow.
Good advice there.
It could perhaps be better for them than, just continuing doing more and more of what they're doing and just adding to the stress.
Yeah, as a manager, you'd have to be responsible for I guess, advising them in some way.
Yes, and I mean, sometimes you felt okay about it, sometimes you felt totally out of your depth,
Yeah.
and then, it's who do you turn to?
Absolutely.
And usually it was a network of other schools. So, often there was very little coming from above that was helpful. So you would look to colleagues and partners to see what they were doing and whether you could come up with something more solid to support staff.
Good stuff. Okay, thanks very much, Clive. As Clive's been speaking, I've just been clicking through WorkRite, which is our stress awareness course that we offer with WorkRite. Very careful not to diagnose stress, but it's really helpful for your staff in terms of giving them some coping mechanisms, some tips on how to recognise stress, and some things that your staff as individuals can take responsibility for, which I think is quite helpful. So that's it for our educational sector webinar. Thanks very much for joining. As always, we'd love to hear what you think. And if you want any further information about any of the courses that Mary has, the asbestos awareness, or AMS, accident management system, or WorkRite, or conflict resolution that I chatted about with Clive, please do let us know. Thanks very much.